History begins in a deep morning. The sleeping girl suddenly woke the ringtone of the phone. Sana! The girl picked up the phone displeasedly. Who is so arrogant there? It all started with the call. While the girl was waiting for an answer, inscriptions appeared on the display. Reset. The game has begun. The girl woke up, hearing only the beating of the heart. She thought, when did I fall asleep? And what was this call? She paid attention to the top. What is this ceiling? Then she jumped sharply, pressing the blanket to her chest. I'm not in my room. Where am I? She heard a voice next to her. Your Highness? A girl with blue eyes and scarlet hair turned her head. The blonde looked at her, asking, already woke up? She thought in shock. Who is it? Incredible handsome man. She noticed that he was naked. Flying out, the stranger asked. Frozen? Warm you? She moved away from him and answered. No, no need. He looked at the girl. What is with you? Did I do something wrong at night? She answered. This is not the point. A homon was heard outside the door. Another man woke up and got out of bed. The girl thought, and who is this? As soon as the blanket slid, the girl blushed, looking at the lower part of the guy, thinking, he has it there. The stranger was not embarrassed by his appearance. He pulled on a bathrobe and asked, what? Do you want to see again? The girl put her hands to her chest and thought, in general, of course, you yourself showed your good. I still ask for forgiveness. Looking at the guy, she said, I really didn't want to. The man made a displeased face and asked, what are the games this time? The girl asked. Games? You already tie a robe. The man stood, not understanding the behavior of the girl. He sighed and headed for the door, complaining, what nonsense! I'm not going to participate in this farce. Farewell. The girl looked after him. Wait! You yourself are nonsense. Explain what is happening here. He did not stop, clapping the door. Suddenly, she heard a voice. Your Highness. The blonde called to her. She examined him, thinking, I forgot about him. A little more, and I'm crazy. Then she said, you would get dressed too. He suddenly cried, pronouncing, I'm to blame. This is all because of me. Your Highness, please humble. His behavior dumbfounded the girl that she did not find the strength to give some emotion. She examined him, noticing a bunch of scars. Has he subjected to violence? Now is not the time to worry about others, but the girl put her hand on his cheek and said, quiet. If you did nothing, then there's nothing to ask for forgiveness. I cannot leave a person to suffer. Let's figure it out. Room. At first, I thought it was a hotel. The room shows that it is residential. Secondly, this guy and that man. Their language is unfamiliar, but I know him, Yarrow girl reasoned. Also these scarlet hair. Scarlet? As I did not understand right away. This is the body, not mine. Suddenly, an information window appeared in front of her eyes. She raised her head and asked, what is it? The last Prince of Velad. He swore in your love, but he was forced to get in touch with Princess Eldria. Forgive him and save him. The girl held out her hand, which passed through the window. The blonde asked, what are you talking about? Pointing to the window, the Aliber said, system message. Can't you see him? The guy asked. System message. Looking at him, the girl thought, is this thing invisible to him? It is better not to ask rash questions, she answered. Forget. I thought about it. I need to analyze everything. In the game notification, 3 are mentioned. He, you, and Princess Eldria. He swore in your love. He was forced to get in touch with Princess Eldria. The blonde became embarrassed, but the girl immediately asked, who was it just? The guy answered with a question. Are you talking about Prince Edson? The last Prince of Velad, she whispered. Can't be. A sound notification sounded. The girl saw a window with choice options. She began to read the contents. He asked you for forgiveness. Kiss. 6 on the floor and start pouring tears. To admit love and hug. The girl thought in shock. Was I in the game? The cursor moves on its own. The choice was made. A new window jumped out. The last Prince of Velad. Congratulations on the end of the quest. Another signal was heard. A mistake is discovered, the girl thought. Error? I was reborn into a secondary character of the Gra. in which someone is playing now? She reasoned nervously. Error! Really, because of me? I can't even believe. How could this happen in reality? Although there is one chance that this is true. But how can I return? The signal was heard. Again, game alert. The last prince of Velad. For an unknown reason, he could not become a captive and is now your ally. If you do not get rid of hatred in his soul, he will leave you. You will become a maid princess of Eldria. To punish it, you must find a weak place and spread scandalous rumors. It looks like someone continues to play, she said aloud. This is no longer a joke. The guy gave a voice. Are you okay? She turned to the blonde. What is your name? I think I lost my memory. A few minutes later, the young man sat on his knees and told, Your Highness is the princess of the Viet Empire. You are 23 years old, and you are an applicant for the throne. The girl asked. Claim? And the children of the emperor? The blonde answered. His Majesty the Emperor had many mistresses, but he did not want to have offspring. Many were looking for your location, she asked. And what about Edson? Did I force them forcibly? It's all right, say, the guy said. You did not refuse the men who themselves went to you. You are interested in those who opposed. Prince Edson Velod also abandoned the offer, and 2 months later, you called him a military trophy. He especially resisted the order to divide the bed with you, the girl immediately thought. Edson fell in love with the main character of this game. He had to leave her and sleep with a hated woman. For the game, such a story is quite everyday, the guy said. I'm sorry, Alavalosa said. I'm not a very good princess. Why are you staying with me? The blonde answered. I am a concubine. This information hit the girl's head with a hammer. She asked in shock. What? The guy answered. You sheltered my nondescript, she thought. Such a princess could not but have a concubine. Judging by how he prayed for mercy, she treated him lousy. The princess asked. Can I believe you? The concubine answered. Certainly. Then she ordered, You will help me. After a few more minutes, the maids discussed the princess. Recently, Her Highness has been behaving strangely. She drew attention to the door from which the princess came out and said, You went out, the girl said. You make noise, the maid answered. We have committed mortal sin, the princess immediately thought. I said everything right? Approaching the mirror, she began to consider her appearance and muttered, Beautiful, but there is nothing more comfortable than the dress. The owner of this body of the princess of the empire and the enemy of the main character. Eldria Viata Cecilia, the hateful villain. Now my future is only death. I have to survive at all costs. The only hint for me is the warning of the main character. If I manage to get the choice menu, a girl turned to her from behind. Do you need something? The princess answered. Now call Edson Velad. A moment later, steps were heard, and a man entered the living room, asking displeasedly, What is the matter? Eldria invited the man to her and offered to sit down. Having slapped the door, he answered, This will be my last service. The girl answered, You say that you won't come, even if I call? She thought. And is he interesting to the princess? They abused him, and he thinks that I will drag him into bed again. The man said, You did as you wanted. Are you not tired of yourself? In his appearance and mood, she understood. He is at the limit. Eldria said, It's clear. And then I thought, Don't worry, this time everything will be different. A window surfaced immediately. Edson left you for a while. Wait, find the princess. Go to Rovia, which is waiting in the room. The princess thought. Rovia? This is the name of one of the 3 concubines of the princess, about whom the scum spoke. The girl began to reason. Choose she is the second option. I would be able to recognize a person that she intends to kill me. A window appeared. Rovia tried to kiss you. He complains that you have not come to him for a long time. If you pull the time on the contrary, Edson may return. Take a kiss? Do not take a kiss. Make a connection. Looking at the man's face, she noticed that the third option was chosen. She thought, One will not be enough for you. Eldria said, Do as you want. The man asked for. What? She added. Are you sorry that I let you go? He answered. Rave. She raised her tone. I will complain to you a piece of land. I did not think of anything. Exactly. You can grab any person, beloved, Eldria thought. He believes that I will try to harm her? Unable to restrain himself, the prince grabbed the girl by the throat, screaming, "You!" The maid, standing nearby, cried out, "Guard!" The princess held out her hand, said, "Everything is fine." Thus reassured the maid. Edson was Yarostin and said, "Do not touch her." Eldria smiled and answered maliciously, "Come on, no way. There is not enough gunpowder?" The man threatened, "Though you will touch her with your finger, and I will kill you. Remember, I will make you pay for everything. I will definitely let the whole world know what dirt is hidden behind a seductive appearance." The princess asked, "Do you know me well? Would I idle?" He slowly began to release her throat. He fell to his knees, saying, "Slee over her. If you leave Uriel alone, I don't care what will happen to me." Eldria thought. Now he sees a pure evil in front of him. In fact, I am not the object of his anger. I am the same victim. I was deprived of myself and my world. Why should I stand and listen? How do they blame me? She said. Let's see. All you can. Curse me with words. But I am able to realize everything. Different thoughts tormented her. Uriel jumps into other people's beds, and he easily sacrifices himself for her. She said, "Do not scare. I will not do anything. Neither you nor her if you do not wish that." The princess continued, "Do you want to know why? A miserable man. I'm tired of you." The man looked at her while she was talking. "You are tired of me faster than I thought." Eldria was plunged into his thoughts. She called out by a voice from which she shuddered. "You have an unhealthy complexion," the girl answered. "A little tired. You served me all day." "Name?" the maid answered. "Hess. I am your personal maid." There is no use from the maid now, so Eldria gave the order. "Hess, that's it for today. Go to rest." After some time, the girl settled in, stealing, and out loud expressed her thoughts. "I changed the development of the game. Now it remains to see what will happen next." Suddenly, a familiar sound signal was heard, and followed by a message. "In a limited time, you have created a connection with Rovia." She recalled the dialogue with Edson, who spoke. "Speak! Have not heard the screams of innocent people who die because of you?" Her words are likely to sound cruel, but there is no choice. Then she answered, "I will tell you something very interesting." The princess realized that, in the end, they were just game characters. Then she continued, "Where is your beloved now? With whom? And what is doing?" Reluctantly, she added, "She is now with my concubine, on the same bed on which I slept with you." Being in bed and resting her hand on her eyes, she thought, "I thought he would immediately run to check. Was the spirit?" Suddenly, a signal sounded. "The interest of Rovia fell a little in you." The princess jumped up, asking, "What?" "Everything went well, so why?" She began to read. Rovia wished the princess's love, but could not achieve her. "Because of your insincere behavior, he had doubts. He suspects that you have another man. For some time, in no case do not let him know about your relationship with Edson." The girl spoke in shock. What happened there? Since he had doubts? A notification appeared again. "You failed in the comfort of Rovia." The sound alerts did not end, but the princess, ignoring them, returned to bed, thinking, "Today I am fed up with this." When the girl fell asleep, somewhere in the distance, she heard a voice. Opening his eyes, he became more distinct. There was a distinct male voice. Wiping her eyes, to Eldria asked, "Frill?" But the blonde whispered, "Have you forgotten me?" Frightened by a sudden guest, Eldria raised herself and pressed the blanket to her chest, sleepily asking, "Why did you come?" Looking at the stranger's face, she thought, "Who is this? Perhaps I knew this guy, but I lost my memory." Rustling a blanket, the guy put his hand to his chest, clutching his shirt and answering, "I heard no one came to you." Suddenly, the guy abruptly took off his shirt, saying, "For a long time you have not been looking for meetings with me. There were always men to replace. Now that you are sleeping alone, it looks like even it was bored with you. You never called me first. I had to visit you." Fighting with awkwardness and embarrassment, Eldria somehow answered, "Number, I'm tired, so I want to sleep." Clutching the blanket, the girl thought and asked aloud, "Uriel?" The guy immediately cried out nervously, "What are you talking about?" The frightened princess immediately understood everything. This is definitely a mug from that game alert. Suddenly, a new window appeared in front of Eldria. Edson wants to get a connection with you. However, if you agree, traces of this can see Rovia. At the same time, if you refuse, Edson can make you an offer that you cannot refuse. Refuse! Climb with a lie. Make a connection. Cry! The last option was chosen. Eldria thought in shock. Tears for no reason? Uriel, you are hopeless. The princess introduced a girl, next to whom there are two men, and thought, Edson and Rovia. She wants to sit on two chairs? Touching the blonde's cheek, the girl said, You are the same. After meeting with that woman, did you have the arrogance to come to me? However, instead of leaving, the guy leaned closer to the girl, asking, Are you angry? Rovia grabbed her hands and pressed her to the pillow next to the princess's head, asking, Why are you always so cruel to me? She mentally asked him a question. Cruel? Being in a strong grip, she asked, Didn't you sleep with another? I or she? Be honest in her behavior. Do not revel in stupid tears. The guy immediately asked for, How can you say this? Tears were still from his eyes when he spoke. Why can't I? Why only me? Unable to restrain himself, he began to pester her. Be mine today. The princess knew that it was impossible to do something, even when being in a strange body. But the guy continued. Give me to me that night, please. Approaching her lips, he whispered, A second. When they almost kissed, Rovia collapsed on Eldria with his whole body. In complete shock, the girl thought. Sleeping? This moron. A new notification has appeared. The failure was automatically counted. A fine is assigned. As a fine, there was a reset of the interest of Rovia Zuran. Ruth Rovia Zuran is temporarily closed. Depending on the success in a hidden quest, the closed route will open again. Suddenly, a booming male voice was heard outside the door. Your Highness! The trouble happened. Knights entered the room. One of the soldiers, stuttering, answered, Prince of Velod and one of the palace servants have just been captured during an attempt to escape. Suddenly, a new notice came out. A hidden quest began. You dared to escape in the middle of the night with Edson, who was the lover of the princess. Now the whole world found out about his secret lover. Protect yours with Edson's life from the rage of the princess. The maids immediately began to discuss this. How is she going to do with Prince Velad? Death penalty? Will she really reach this? Her interlocutor answered, Of course. After a moment, Edson and Uriel were already sitting on their knees in front of the princess. She immediately asked strictly, Why did you do this? Is this such a way to ask me to kill you? The prince began to answer, You yourself said that you let us go. Pulling out patience, the man screamed, I was afraid that you would take Uriel from me. Coffin silence came. The girl was confident in one. He does not believe me in a drop. By the way, finally I saw her, Uriel. The main character of this game was sitting in front of her. A young girl with long black hair, red eyes. Looking at her face, Eldria thought, On the face is not a shadow of fear, is not afraid of death. The feeling that she was familiar to me, as if I had met her before. Unable to stand this infinitely stretching pause, Edson first gave a voice. You can kill me, but release Uriel. Looking at the defenseless prince, bowing her head, the girl asked in a cold tone, Do you cherish this girl like that? However, the princess did not finish on this. Or the price of the life of the royal clan of Velod is so small? After which he again turned to Eldria. As you said, now it is more important for me to protect it in the world. A notification reappeared. Princess Eldria knows the truth that you had fun with her concubine. You must pacify the anger of the princess. The life of Edson Velod depends on this. To say that it is in no way connected with Edson, pray for forgiveness. Ask to kill yourself with him. Ask for help from Rovia. The main character pushed her lover's hand, saying loudly, He made me escape! Thinking, Eldria issued her verdict. I will let you go both. And I will give so much money in addition that you will not spend in my whole life, but on condition that you will not return here anymore. After which Eldria thought, While Uriel is nearby, Edson will not think about revenge, and he will not encroach on my life. With Uriel is more difficult. Edson is not enough for her, so she will probably want to stay in the palace. She waved her open hand and firmly declared, "So choose." Suddenly, the princess's bedroom door opened, and half-naked Rovia came out of it, pulling a shirt over his shoulders. With a misunderstanding of what was happening, the blonde asked a question. "Uriel, why are you here with him?" Looking at the prince, Eldria thought. Edson. Now he finally realized that Uriel actually has a lover. At that very moment, Rovia went to Uriel and, grabbing her by the shoulders, sentenced him. "How could you do so to me? More recently, I molested me. And now, with me, he finds out relations with Uriel? Suddenly for everyone," the princess said menacingly. "Rovia, on the knees!" Guy immediately fell into a stupor. "Losing patience," the princess repeated. "Knee, I say." Pointing with a finger at the blonde, the girl said, "You first. Apparently, you are not satisfied with your status of the concubine. I let you go. You can be free." The dumbfounded guy looked down disappointedly. Eldria was misunderstood why the guy had such a reaction. Then she turned to a couple. "You can also leave the palace, together." The irritated Rovia angrily glanced towards Edson, saying, "This dog has no pride at all." A notification of the system sounded, and followed by a window. "In the future, whatever you do, Edson will not leave you." Contrary to everything, Uriel only giggled quietly in his hand. Surprised, Eldria thought. "Does she laugh?" Then she concluded, "That's all." Suddenly, the main character gave a voice. "Your Highness! I don't want to leave the palace." Pointing to Volodya, she screamed, "To leave with this person, what a stupid thing! I'm really innocent. I want to serve you personally." Putting his hand to the chin, Eldria began to reason. She decided to find out my weak place. "He thinks that I am completely an idiot?" The main character continued her loud speech. "I didn't want to run away from the very beginning. But this man made me." Illuminarly slowly got up from the couch, saying, "You don't want to leave, want to serve me." Uriel began to make excuses, Your Highness. But the princess immediately interrupted her. "How much our capricious Uriel wants. Most likely in the future, she will ultimately kill me. I have to end her until it became too late." The girl turned to the main character. "Uriel, you can do what you want, but forget about becoming my maid." The young girl immediately answered, "Thank you." Then Eldria turned to Eden. "And you?" The man answered, "I will stay here too." Looking at them, Alovo, Haired asked herself, "So this is only the beginning?" Then a new notice appeared. "The quest is completed. Congratulations. The reset of the interest of Rovia is preserved. Ruth Rovi Zuran moved from disappearance to status expects disappearance. Life is awarded as a reward." After some time, the girl went to her room. Approaching the door, she saw Rovia and Scab. "I ordered everyone to leave." The puzzled guy decided to ask, "Want to throw me away?" Closing her eyes, the princess gave a brief answer. "Right." Clutching his hands into a fist, the concubine said, "This is unfair." But the princess answered rudely, "What did you expect? You betrayed me. Name at least one reason why I should leave you nearby." He remembered the moment when he was in the same bed with her, after which he spoke. "You have accepted my feelings. I seem to be in reality." Then the girl's calm voice was heard. "Boredom. And I hoped that you would have entertained me better." Staking a little finger on the lip, Eldria thought, after which she asked, "Maybe you will do this with another woman, and I will look?" Another day, standing in front of the door to the princess's room, Rovia thought. Then I realized that she made me an concubine. Returning from his thoughts to reality, the guy immediately heard the girl's voice. "Come as you figure it out. I will give you enough freedom." Standing her back to the concubine, the princess thought, "I still can't kill Uriel, even if this decision can lead me to death. Even if it was the only way to get out of the game. I cannot deprive human life. We exist in one space. Therefore, I cannot go to something so reckless. Maybe everything is on the contrary well. I was not able to send her, but now I can follow Uriel while she is in the imperial palace." The next morning, standing by the window, the princess heard a familiar voice behind herself. "Your Highness, did you wake up? I brought water." Looking at the smiling Nodic, Eldria thought, "Among all, he is the only one who remains friendly with me." Taking a cup from the tray, she thought, I have been tormented by constant insomnia since I was reborn in this body. Is this the reason for my fatigue? This is not the first time I have heard this question from my close ones, but what about themselves? The girl began to examine the blonde. He turned his head, and the princess found a bruise on his neck and asked, Is this my hand? The guy was silent, afraid to answer. At that time, Eldria continued to think. Terrible. I was not going to climb into the affairs of the past, but, looking intently into the guy's eyes, she said again, I repeat the question. Did I leave this bruise? But the scum did not answer. Braving and embarrassed, the concubine finally answered, Yes. The princess sincerely turned to the guy. Whatever it is, you should not lie to me. Suddenly, the maid entered the room and rushed low. Eldria immediately asked, Where is the doctor responsible for him? The maid answered, Your Highness, it is forbidden to touch the property of the imperial family. These are our customs. With a drooping look, he said, I usually engage in self-medication. The girl thought in shock. Is he the property of the imperial family? Having taken aback, the princess muttered nervously, How? I forgot something. Bring the medicine. Then the illuminar, haired one, took him into himself and rudely asked, Can't I touch him either? The servant answered here, I will bring everything in an instant. With a calm face, she looked into the face of the concubine and said, Nadika, undress. After the maid brought everything necessary, Eldria was wetting the towel and the medicine, she said. Be patient a little. She looked at his back, full of scars, thinking, What a horror. Then she picked up a towel and began to rub his back. When the procedures were over, the concubine briefly said, Thank you. The girl answered right there. Thank you, but did not even look at me. He laid his hands on his knees, embarrassedly speaking, Just do something like that for a person like me. It excites me. However, the girl decided to change his attitude towards herself, saying, I already told you, do not show yourself weak to others. Suddenly, the concubine said, But I want to be weak in front of you. Eldria was immediately shocked by this. She herself thought, I understand that passion in his gaze is the product of faith that a real princess cares about him. However, Eldria had other thoughts about his behavior, so she said firmly, It is forbidden. Getting up from the couch, the girl said, I finished with treatment. Without raising his head, the concubine whispered softly, There are still. Raising his head, he continued more confidently, There are still wounds. Down. Show? Cure me, your highness. Suddenly, a maid turned to them. His Majesty calls you to talk to an official dinner. Some time later, a man with long scarlet hair arrived, whom the whole servant greeted in a bow. Then, he turned to the princess. Ria, for a long time you and I did not talk face to face. Did something happen last night? Stopping, he turned around, smiling at the girl. Looking at him, she thought, This man, Elport Enzo Cecilia, the current emperor and brother of the princess. Smiling mutually, Eldria answered, Nothing special. Elport was very glad to finally see her. The princess thought at the same time, Now he is glad. But what he will do if he notices that he is not a sister, but another person? Then why did he turn a blind eye to her bad inclinations and allowed him to sink like that? The man spoke again. I have important news. Looking at how his sister is in the clouds, he asked for, Ria, are you listening? Having shuddered, she looked at her brother, answering, Yes? Throwing a smile, he spoke. You were interested in the results of the war and the conclusion of a peace treaty with the Rothschild Empire. So, at the end of this month, our union will come to an end. The reason was the fact that the loser of the Kingdom of Borne broke into two countries, between which an agreement was concluded on the domestic territory of the Kingdom of Borne. The girl thought in confusion, Impruding Rothschild? Kingdom of Borne? I screwed up. It was necessary to find out everything about the princess. Meanwhile, Elport said joyfully, I think to give you power. These words introduced the princess into a stupor and shock. The darkness that enveloped the girl made her clarify. Did I hear it right? Suddenly, he became serious, saying, Although no, at such times it is better to actively make connections. Do not worry, your assistants are full. Looking at his sister, he continued, Right. Your devoted knight is just returning, so there should be no problems. Raising his index finger, the man said joyfully, He will return with great merit. What will you do? Eldria had to think seriously before answering. Will I accept it with honors? Elport immediately said joyfully. Great. The Emperor spoke. You were completely not excited by this news. I decided that you completely forgot him, she answered. How could I? The man said. Right, it's you who sent him to the very bake. She thought in shock. What? The Emperor said. Time flies so fast. I recall, 5 years ago, immediately after the wedding with you, he went to the front. The girl thought, Weddings? Is it really another favorites of the princess? Smiling, Elport said. I even thought whether this war arose only because of the discord between you. He turned to his sister. Who could have imagined that he would return? With victory, back to you, she thought. Come on. Their relationship cannot be called just stretched. She untied the war to get rid of him, sending him to death. Does he come back with the victory? There was a notification. Border night. After a while, 2 maids were whispered. What did Her Highness think about so deeply? The second immediately whispered. Quiet. Eldria thought about her brother. This abnormal decided to shove his duties on me. What now? How did I know that everything would turn around? She remembered her brother's words. Ria, I don't know what changes have happened to you in your soul, but when I heard about the events of last night, I believed that you are able to hold these negotiations. For this, you have enough wisdom and mercy. She answered awkwardly. How? She thought. So I look like now? The soul in this body is really different, so we can say that the changes have occurred. The real princess has disappeared. But there was such a thing that everyone wants to see. Sounds like a bad joke. Elport continued. Of course, you are still inexperienced. Therefore, Sir Eclot will help you with difficult matters. Don't worry, Eldria asked. Does he still remain my concubine? The Emperor was surprised, then answered. What are you talking about? Of course, until you back it again for the next war. The girl noticed. But he hates me, brother said. Ria, you yourself know very well what kind of person he is. She did not understand. So he hates me or not? To deal with one favorite, but then they immediately leaned them. A new notification arose. She thought, What is this time? You found a note left by Edson. Gods, despite the events of this night, does she continue this chaos? And so already 2 men fucked. Here is restless. This is not Eden, but I had to escape that night. Then she turned to the maids. I need to go out. They looked at her misunderstood. One of them asked, What did you say now? She explained. I said that I want to take a walk alone. 3 maids said in shock, stuttering, Your Highness, you can't. The girl looked at them blankly. Eldria thought, what did this princess create outside, since such a reaction? Suddenly, she pointed a finger at one of the maids, standing in the middle. Speaking, then you. Stay, the rest leave. The girl who left was strained and scared. Having bowed, the brown maid stuttering answered, Yes. Then the maid screamed, I'll take care of you, Your Highness. Suddenly she stumbled and flew right on the princess, picking her so that they do not fall together, Eldria thought. Girl with surprises. A little more, and I would crush me to the floor. Then she asked displeasedly, Live? In panic, the maid trembled and could not tie a pair of words. After a couple of seconds, she screamed loudly, Sorry! Falling at her feet, the servant spoke strictly. Your Highness, sorry. I am ready for everything to atone for my guilt. I asked the princess with irritably putting her hand to her forehead. What is your name? Sobbing, the maid mumbled. My name is Daisy. Please do not kill. I am terribly fascinated. Unconsciously, Eldria laughed. A young girl with a guilty and curious look looked at the mistress. Looking awkwardly at the maid, the princess thought. She herself did not notice how she laughed. Then she said, Sorry. Approaching the maid and wiping her finger with a tear, rolling down her cheek, she asked, Are you fine? Didn't you get a head? The servant answered in shock. No, everything is fine. Smiling, Eldria said, I will spare you if you stop pouring tears. Daisy, not believing her ears, asked a question. Is it true? So punish me? Without removing smiles, the Illuminar, Haired answered. Certainly. Frightened, the maid asked. How? Eldria said. Tell me as a punishment, where is there a secluded place in the palace park? After a while, they went outside. Correcting her hair, the princess said, Fresh air. Now I came to life a little. The day has not ended yet, and the heels are already burning from fatigue. The feeling that a hurricane was carried around my world. Trembling in front of the princess of the scum, Rovia thirsty for her love, deadly hating her Edson, and in frightening unknown eclat. What strange connections are neither love, no trust, nor understanding? Will I be able to return to my real world? What if I have to live like a princess, stuck in this fictitious imposed world on me? What should I do? Suddenly, she saw a stranger standing under a thick tree. Going closer, she recognized him. Edson, his note for Uriel said. I will wait at our permanent meeting place. You walk towards Rovia. Who will you choose? Edson. Rovia. Uriel had to make a choice. A scream was heard in the palace. Rovia, I'm sorry. I almost made stupidity. Uriel hugged the guy, saying, When you and I saw Edson with the princess interrogation, I understood everything. With a neutral face, the blonde asked. What? She answered. I can't escape from you with him. Rovia asked a question. You want to say what stayed here because of me? Clutching the guy, she answered. Yes, beloved, the blonde thought. Lieutenant. Now I was able to understand the reason she met with me. Also, like this lying woman, I do not feel any remorse. I and she do not love each other, Uriel said. I am so happy that you did not hate me. Truth. Listen to me, he answered. Speak. Thinking, the girl spoke. I want to meet Her Highness, the blonde thought. Why did she need this? Then she said, I beg you. You are the only one I can contact. After a little silence, Rovia answered, Okay, I'll help. Distributing with him and walking along the corridor, Uriel began to gnaw his nails, thinking. Not a single bell about increasing interest. That systemic warning fiercely broke me. How could he cool to me? After a skirmish with the princess, the game threw off all the progress. If this goes further, the route will close. But all my attempts to correct the situation turned into a collapse. She screamed. Damn it! And what should I do? Stay on the sidelines and observe? Angrily squeezing the apron, she thought. So it shouldn't be. This is me the main character of this game. She screamed loudly again. You have to return to me. Suddenly she heard someone's steps. Looking around, she was frightened, asking aloud. Nobody heard? Running around the corner, she began to look for the owner of the steps. Looking into the corridor, she said joyfully, This is the concubine of the princess? At the same time, standing under a tree, the princess greeted Edson. Hello! Without answering anything, the man crossed his arms over his chest and looked away with displeasure. She thought, This is the place where he was going to meet with Uriel. Edson turned away and walked away. The princess shouted in shock from such arrogance. Wait! Walking after him, she thought. We could just disperse, pretending that we did not see each other. But let we both feel awkward. I can't leave everything as it is. She grabbed his hand. Where are you? He answered. What are you grabbing me? She said. Will you leave without even saying hello? Edson said. We are not in those relationships to bow to each other. Suddenly, a notification jumped out. Rovia doubts you because of your desire to meet with Princess Eldria. Sometimes it is useful to tell the truth. She threw Edson and went to Rovia. Not so much she needs him, it comes out. No matter how important she is, the place of the maid, to do so. Edson asked. You did not come to say that you changed your decision? The princess thought. I already said that he bored me. So if I drive him away, it will not look strange? Eldria answered. Stay until you yourself want to leave. But in return, you will no longer be a prisoner, nor a hostage, nor a guest. Having clenched his fists, the man asked displeasedly. And who will I be then? She answered. I will give you the opportunity to stay in this country. You will have a situation here. This is what I propose. The man asked. Stay? Do you think this is possible for me? With interest, the princess asked a question. And where would you go escaping from the palace? Eldria extended her hand and said, Pay! The guy asked in shock. What? The girl said. I say, pay if you want to live here. You don't want to. Go work. Although for this, you still need to have housing, the man asked in shock. Do you understand what you are carrying? Eldria answered, Yes. The guy continued, Rave. The girl turned away from Edson. Then she said, From this moment, nothing connects us, as if we were strangers. I did not forget about what I had done before. I know you can't stand me, so much so that you wish me death, burning your hostility. Nothing will come out for you. I will not forget such a favor forever. You can even live here with your beloved. I will accept it, the man asked coldly. This is all? The princess asked in surprise. What? He repeated. I ask this end? Edson cried, speaking in a trembling voice. You refused me so easily, she thought. He must be devastated and irritated. My words made him be completely confused. Closing his face with his hand, he muttered, And with such insignificant feelings, you destroyed my country and ruthlessly dealt with my people? If I repay you for everything, maybe then I feel better? The man gazed dumbfounded at the princess, asking, Why are you crying? He held out his hand to her face, saying, Strange. What kind of obsession? I did not expect this. It doesn't look like you at all. Admit it. Are you mocking me again? He still did not trust her. Eldria thought, How can I tell him that I am not the princess that he knew? You and I are so similar. Both fell into the world alien to us. Both are powerless to change something. Wipe the tears, she answered. Sorry, I'm sorry. And again I thought, if I appeared here a little earlier, he would not have to experience so much suffering. Edson said, Enough. Then he grabbed her hand, crying out, Stop fooling my head! Stop, please! The princess shuddered. Suddenly, somewhere near them, a girlish voice was heard. Edson? It was Uriel, who went towards the tree, screaming, Where are you? Edson! Running to one of her lovers, she joyfully asked, Have you been waiting for a long time? Eldria was no longer next to him. Diving behind the tree, the princess pressed her mouth with her hand and thought, Why did I hide? Having her head, covering her whole face with her hand, she asked herself, And why did he suddenly burst out before his eyes? Hugging a man, Uriel began to apologize. Sorry. Along the way, hugging him, buried his nose in the chest. With a thoughtful look, Edson answered, Nothing. I did not wait long. Uriel, looking into his eyes, said, I apologize not for that. The man made a serious face, after which he said, Uriel, I only need you. Having acquired her by the waist, he continued, These are my feelings, the girl whispered. Edson. Eldria, eavesdropping them, thought, Why did I decide to stay and not run away? Over time I will tell. Then the maid said, You have the right to know. She was going with her thoughts. The princess thought, True, he loves her very much. She can't find the same devoted man. The maid said, Wait a bit. He answered, Okay, I'll wait. The princess listened with displeasure. Eldria thought, Amazing. It is so ridiculous that it is no longer funny. Suddenly, a notification jumped out. 3 options offered to take a connection. Eldria thought in shock. To do what? Right here and now? What are these options? Are you joking? Sitting behind a tree, she could wait for what option Uriel would choose. The princess reasoned. Number even if she offers it. Edson will refuse. Refusing, yes? Edson, you know that I'm hiding here. She looked in shock to choose a system. Looking at the window, she thought in a panic. Uriel, choose the first option. But she opted for the latter. He said, Now take a connection with special passion. Having wilted, the princess told herself, This girl is without brakes. The maid reached for the man's lips, but he calmly said, Wait, suddenly someone sees. He glanced on a tree, behind which Eldria sat, and encouraged him. Yes, continue in the same spirit. However, the maid could not be stopped. She spoke. I don't care. We no longer need to hide our relationship. He began to stroke the girl through his hair, answering, Exactly. The princess did not like this. Without hesitation, he gave Uriel a kiss, who foreshadowed something more right in this place. At the evening, Eldria returned to the palace, and she was immediately met by the maids, bowing. Holding on her head, the girl thought, I spent there until the sunset, until they were crushed. Tired. Wow walked. Only migraine earned. I thought we were similar to Edson. But unlike me, he has a person dear to him. What am I doing? Returning to her room and slamming the door, she found a scum sitting on the sofa. The guy was sitting at one point. The princess said, "There is no face on you. Did something happen?" Without turning his head in her direction, he said, "Your Highness?" She asked me impatiently. "What?" Having lowered his head, he said with a guilty look. "That woman touched me," Eldria asked in surprise. "What woman?" At that moment she thought, "The scum thinks that the princess has lost her memory. And since I know that woman, the current one," looking at the guy's murdered expression, she asked, "Are you talking about Uriel?" She reasoned. "I thought everything was not the Nodkey of one of the love goals of the game for Uriel." Not going around the bush, she asked a question that interests her most. "Did you sleep with her?" Blonde. The blonde turned his head towards the princess, answering, "No, no, I would never dare." Looking at the concubine, she asked herself a question. Why does he even cry so beautifully? I would always admire this. The reddened and whimpering guy mumbled, "This is true, I swear." Eldria mentally confirmed. No, he and Uriel are clearly not close. She decided to ask another question. If not she, then who is so insolent that he dared to touch my concubine? "Wipe the tears," the scum answered. "Everyone knows that even if I am harassed, I can't tell your highness." Taking his hand, she asked, "Why?" And she thought, "He said everything?" The blonde did not ask knowingly. "What?" The princess said right there. "Why did you still be silent?" Looking at the girl with puppy eyes, Nadika answered, "Because then your highness would have killed me." With a serious look, Eldria asked, "Do you think that now I'm not capable of this?" Blicking, the guy answered briefly, "Yes." She continued the interview. "Where did this woman touch you? Here?" Then she suddenly kissed his lips. Having pulled back, she answered herself, "Apparently not." The blonde mumbled in shock, "I don't remember. Maybe if you still try, then I will remember?" He surprised the princess. Slowly taking his hand, she asked a question. "Here or here?" Then she kissed his brush. She continued to ask after each kiss. "Here?" She kissed his forearm. Suddenly a cry was heard next to them. "Let go." With a displeased look, Eldria said, "What is this time?" Rising, she noticed two guards who held the guy, trying to explain to the princess. "Sorry, your highness. Insistent from the House Lebanon. He stubbornly demanded a meeting with you and suddenly broke through. To blame, your highness." Looking at the sudden guests, she ordered, "Enough. Make it away." The answer was heard, "I obey." The stranger began to break out and speak. "Take your hands. Do not know who I am?" He turned to Eldria. "Your highness, why do you pretend that you do not recognize me? I'm your favorite. You said that you will give me status soon." The girl answered, "I'm sorry, but this will not happen. If you get it all night," the guard obeyed, "will be executed." And the guy shouted, "No, I can't believe it. As soon as I become the concubine of her highness, the first thing I will demolish your heads." "Let me go, to whom I say," the princess thought. Everyone seemed to conspire. As soon as they appear in front of me, and they begin to shake with fear. Apparently, the princess did not cost anything to destroy someone's life. Is it all the bloody traces of her deeds? I do not need a life where everyone depends on me so much that they follow my every gesture and cry, or smile at the command. Having thought about it all, she drew attention to the scum, who stood aside and silently watched what had happened, not giving a look. Eldria hugged his neck and said, "Do you think that others cannot touch you because you belong to me?" Blicking and answering a hug, the guy whispered, "Yes." Putting his head on his shoulder, the princess said, "Nadika, you belong only to yourself." He was surprised. Eldria continued, "Therefore, do as you think it is necessary, and do not do what you don't like." Looking into the girl's eyes, the blonde said, "But I don't like what your highness does not like." Smiling, the princess answered, "So it was before. I ordered, and you obeyed. But this is not what I wish now. I want you to become more free and happy." After that, she kissed him on her cheek. The concubine shuddered stunned and blushed 3 times stronger than usual. The girl thought, "He blushed. How nice." She was amused by the guy's reaction and she asked, "Fine? If you don't like something, then I too." The blonde was a novelty of this behavior of the princess. However, he also smiled and answered, "Fine." A little later, drinking coffee, Eldria asked the maid, "How long have you been working in the palace?" The girl with blonde hair and green eyes answered uncertainly, "The 4th year." Taking a sip, the princess said, "A lot." "Then you should know," the maid asked with surprise. "What are you talking about?" Eldria said, "The scum yesterday drew everything to me. I was surprised that many in the palace do not take me seriously." The servant shuddered sharply. "Impressive." "What? What did he tell you?" "Your Highness, I'm not to blame for anything," the princess said coldly tint. "I know everything." The maid fell with a spent movement to her knees, bowing her head and screamed, "Spare! I have committed a mortal sin." Looking at the miserable maid, Eldria spoke, "If you want to live, you will have to answer me all questions without a shadow of lies." After some time, the guard who connected some servants reported, "We caught them as you ordered. Since you all recognize each other, therefore, understand what crime unites you?" Related people trembled with fear. The princess in a black dress, crossing her arms over her chest, threatened, "Your shamelessness crossed all the boundaries." The caught man tried to make excuses. "Your Highness, Eldria displeasedly interrupted him. "Silence. I know everything you have done." While everyone was trembling, the girl thought. Before their eyes, there was a bad example, not only in the person of the princess, to humiliate those who are weaker than them, taught by the owner of the palace, who could be cut into his bedroom in his bedroom, and in a hurry throw it away. "Alovo." Hared waved her hand. The closest knight only answered, "I obey." Then he began to take the sword out of the scabbard. Hearing the sound of steel, the maid with which Eldria spoke earlier, "You promised to spare me if I tell me everything." The maid sobbed when she heard a cold answer, "Number." And the sword stopped opposite her face. "Departing from the servants," the princess said, "I would not want to stain the shoes in the blood." And she thought, "In fact, I do not wish blood on my hands. But I could not scare them either." Looking at the related servants, she said, "Bring them out." Eldria answered, "I was thinking of decapitating you to the edification of others. But I will give you another chance. Remember, for the 2nd time, there will be no mercy." Entering the kitchen, Daisy folded her hands into the castle, and smiling, she said, "She is so cool." One of the maids broke the plate, falling out of the world, asking for, "What?" The input servant repeated, "She is cool, I say." "Her Highness was even cooler than I thought." A shocked maid, coughed, said, "I seem to choke on the air." The other asked, "Hit the chest?" Then both maids turned to the girl, asking, "Daisy, what are you? Who is cool?" She answered awkwardly, "Her Highness." The maids immediately hung over her, screaming, "You ate conditionally edible mushrooms and now rave? Who are you? What did you do with Daisy?" Smiling, the girl with brown hair and brown eyes answered, "No, she is such a darling. To serve Her Highness is God's grace." Girlfriends asked her, "Are you fine?" Suddenly, a girlish voice was heard from behind. "Grace?" The rest turned to the sound in shock. That was Uriel. "Are you crazy? Don't you know that this princess again killed several servants?" The main character thought with anger, in rages. "I had to surrender to some kind of freak in armor so that he would cover me," Daisy said strictly. "If Her Highness did this, then they deserved it." Uriel did not calm down. "What do you know? It seems that you have not experienced her anger yet?" An irritated maid answered, "Why would it be? Of course I spent a little in front of her, but she forgave me." Two girls were asked in unison, "Do you drive?" Daisy continued, "I work hard for Her Highness. So what to punish me for?" Another maid asked, "Daisy, what have you done? It's scary to even ask." She answered, "I stepped on the dress of Her Highness. I ran to her, slipped and crashed straight at her, and she grabbed me." Uriel listened to the story with anger while Daisy concluded, "Her Highness is a paw." Sitting at the dining table, Eldria turned to Elport. "I wanted to talk to you about one business." Smiling, he answered, "Ria, I'm always ready to listen to your request. So why are you hesitating today? You know that there is no refusal for you. So do not be shy. Continue. I look forward to something interesting. Before you say, she thought, would he be so located if he had found out that he was not his sister? She said, it is necessary to determine the place of stay of the Prince of Velod. Now I have no more reason to keep it next to myself. The brother answered, reasonable. Leaving a person next to him that he had fun with a servant may not affect your authority very well. Eldria continued, if the status of my concubine does not suit him, he should find another place for him, according to his title. The emperor answered good-naturedly, good idea. Let's think about it. The princess added, I decided to leave the maid, who was about to escape with him. She begged me to give her a chance to prove her devotion. Elport said, this maid, her name is Uriel. Eldria said in shock, what? I wonder how you know the name of some maid, he answered. I get reports about what is being done in the palace. She is a beauty with black hair and scarlet eyes. After lunch, leaving the dining room, the princess, accompanied by Hess, thought, what is this? He immediately changed the subject, but I suspect that the emperor is definitely interested in Uriel. What if there is a connection between them in the game? Then she turned to the maid. Hess, how are things? With an eternally strict face, the servant answered in an even voice. I figured out everything, as you ordered. A few days ago, the princess gathered several servants, saying, I heard everything while waiting for you. Tonight, be prepared to leave the palace, one maid asked in shock. What? Eldria explained. I will spare you. But this does not mean that you will avoid punishment. Then she asked Hess, ready? The maid answered, yes. I prepared documents for urgent dismissal. The princess said, you will be transferred to another place and will become there with my eyes and hands. You are forbidden to communicate with your former colleagues. Then her tone became colder. If it turns out that you are hiding something from me again or deceiving me, you will pay. From this moment on, your lives are mine. The servant had no choice but to obey. Eldria said, Hess. She, bowing, answered, yes, your highness. Order. The girl ordered. This time, send people to the imperial palace. Let them find out if the emperor came across Uriel. After some time, Eldria already watched sleeping Nadia and thought, sleeps like an angel. Then I thought, in this alien world, your feelings have become the only support for me. Opening his eyes, the guy noticed a princess near him who asked, woke up, Sonia? Seeing his beloved woman in front of him, he smiled and answered, good morning, your highness. Kissing him on the lips, she said. Good morning, she thought. I could not withstand all this without you. Little by little, I began to get used to life in the palace. Two maids cried out with enthusiasm. Dressing in a business suit, she expected the reaction of the servants. They said, your highness, a trouser suit is very suitable for you. Eldria thought, I should not imitate the behavior of the princess, but to keep the balance between her personality and mine so that the differences are not striking. She drew attention to the excited Daisy, who thought, the princess dressed on the exit. He wants to take a walk again. Serving her for a walk. Take me with you. With a burden on her shoulders, the princess thought, yes, everything is written on their face. Unable to stand the puppy look, the princess turned to the maid. Will you make me a company? I did not have to persuade her for a long time. Sitting in the park, Daisy looked after the girl. Your highness, here is your tea. Holding a saucer in her hands and a cup, she served the joyful speeches of the maids. Today is such beautiful weather, right? Daisy was beside herself with happiness while he was saying, I am so glad that you called me with you. The packed princess asked a question. Honestly? Folding her hands in front of her, the servant answered loudly, yes. Smiling, she answered, it's nice to hear it. Daisy launched. Your highness, Eldria asked. What? With an embarrassed and uncertain look, the girl held out a wreath of fresh flowers, saying, I wove the exam for you. Eldria thought, she is hopeless, but she answered aloud. Beautiful. The joyful maid clarified. Is it true? Contrary to everything, the princess picked up her mood and asked in response, teach me how to weave it? After some time, Eldria held her own woven wreath. Daisy screamed, your highness, you have talent! Will you give this wreath to that person? Looking at the maid in surprise, the girl asked, you're talking about who? With a guilty expression on her face, she embarrassedly began to mumble. You see, Eldria asked absolutely calmly. Do you mean the scum? Why don't you call him by name? She answered. You can't just pronounce the name of the person who belongs to the imperial family. Everyone calls him a person here, so I am. Sorry, Your Highness, Eldria asked. He is never called, for example, my husband, Dazi answered. He does not have an official status, and husbands are usually called not by name, but by last name, and he has no surname, because he was a slave. I thought maybe that person is the nickname that employees at court gave him. Their position is always higher than that of ordinary people. The princess was surprised to listen to the explanation of the maid, and she thought herself, I guessed that there could be a slave system, but she did not assume that the Nadika was a slave. In the palace, he is the most irreparable, and he thinks that his duty is to patiently demolish everything. Therefore, he desperately needs my protection. Suddenly, a notice appeared in front of her face. Disclosure of a settlement of Princess Eldria. You failed in the opening of a weak place due to insufficient grounds. There was only one attempt. Uriel rejected her. If you want to increase the likelihood of success, wait for the right moment, she thought. Failure again? Was it a hint now? Suddenly, a male voice called out to her. Uriel! The blonde approached the maid, watching her reaction. She asked, Rovia, are you here? The guy spoke. Can I ask why you came to the palace of Her Highness? I told you to wait. The dissatisfied maid answered. How long should I wait? You only promise. I do not believe in words, but to deeds, she told him. Admit that you cannot help me. Do you think I will not find any other way? The guy grabbed her by the shoulders and answered. Uriel, do not be angry. Trust me. Am I your beloved? Looking at him, the girl thought. Lying. I know that the level of interest was dropped. Surely he pretends because for some reason he needs me, Rovia said. If you say why you want to meet with the princess, I will find the best way to arrange it. After what happened, you should not catch her eye yet, she asked. What? I didn't call you after that night, right? In the apple. Do you understand? She found out about our connection, but still left me in the palace. She lost all interest in you. The guy grinned, after which he answered irritatedly. Yes, I know. Self, permanent Uriel mentally asked. What do you know? This woman has become a completely different person. Aura emanating from it, every gesture and habit. Even the facial expression is different. What happened to her? Are the consequences of my intervention appear now? It puzzled the maid. Meanwhile, Eldria asked the servants, What did you manage to find out? They answered her. In the palace, no one saw Uriel Rose. We checked this through the maid of His Majesty. The information is reliable, the princess thought. Uriel has not yet met with the emperor? Well, if they are not connected. But if the emperor himself is involved, it will not be possible to further sit back. Uriel is looking for my weak place, my only weakness. She introduced the smiling face of the scum. Suddenly she called out, Your Highness! Where to put the wreath? What did you bring? The girl answered, Leave on the table. Looking away, she thought, I have to tell Nadric that we need to stay away from each other for a while. The next day, Eldria thought, Nadika did not come last night, although I waited for him until late. Not that I would like him to spend days in my bedroom. Suddenly she heard a voice. Your Highness. The entered maid bowed and immediately reported. The Zuran Gospodin arrived. The girl answered, Let him enter. From the very threshold, Rovi said. By order of the emperor, from today, I will teach your highness. The princess thought in shock. Rovia? What did he just say? Some time later, he rammed non-stop. According to legend on the foundation of the country, the features of the leading ideology from the early times were the education of labor and strengthening defense. He interrupted, asking, Are you not listening? Putting the elbows on the table, Eldria answered dejectedly, I'm listening. Looking at the new teacher, the girl thought. Crap! Immediately it was necessary to find out who Zorain is. I did not expect that it was the surname of Rovia. When I asked the emperor to find an advisor on diplomatic issues, he said something strange. I will give Zoran a secret that you need it. I understand your feelings. Clear. He decided that I want to return the concubine. which cooled to me. But I am my pride too wounded to call him personally, so I need help. God, and what is the emperor of opinion about his sister? She completely mired in her thoughts. Suddenly, Rovia turned to her. Then repeat what I just said. The girl looked at him in shock. The guy decided to continue. After the war and the colonization of the captured states, the tribute received from them became the basis for the growth of our empire. Having buried in the textbook, the princess asked, only war and colonization strengthened us? He answered, right. The amount of crop from our lands was not enough for the increasing population. Agricultural equipment was not enough. And every year there were less and less suitable for cultivation of land. In addition, in the center of the continent, where the Imprudus is located, a cold climate. The situation was worsening that land rent increased, and in the cultivated territories, the crop of the godbull from frost. The girl asked. While, Rovia answered, their decision was magic. Eldria thought in shock. What? Is there magic here? The guy continued. The empire, which foresaw its sunset, showed resistance to the exiled exile of the magicians. Thanks to the possibilities of magic, the borders of our empire expanded greatly. It was possible even more expansion of them, but this required an appropriate increase in the army and weapons. If you thoughtlessly enslave the lands, that is, danger, the collected taxes will not cover the costs of maintaining captured states. It is more profitable for them to be colonies. The kingdom of Borne, which was located geographically, was originally prey, which was hunted by the kingdom of Rothschild. The climate in this country was soft, and unlike the cycling. Suddenly, the princess shuddered, hearing a familiar name. She asked, dumbfounded. For a second, cycling? The guy answered. In Volota, there are a lot of mines with minerals. Therefore, it is an excellent colonial source of income. In a sense, it is a storehouse of gold, silver, rare stones, and marble, Eldria said. I didn't mean that. I thought that I completely destroyed Velad. Rovia looked suspiciously at the princess. With a serious face, the blonde asked, have I noticed a certain semblance of torment of conscience? Looking at the man from the sublobe, the princess asked with discontent. Do you think I have no conscience? Rovia answered, I don't believe you. But even if you do not play me, this is not only your fault. Eldria was surprised while the blonde continued. It is true that the emperor cares very much about your highness, but he is too aligned to miss the real benefit. Your highness wished to capture Prince Edson Valad, and his majesty is his land with mines. Your interests coincided. The emperor satisfied not only your whim, he told her, remorse. It doesn't suit you. Are you going to ask him for forgiveness? Did you start to regret too late? She answered right away. It's never too late, even if nothing can be changed. If a person does not look back, he cannot change. And one feeling of guilt of sins cannot be atoned. But perhaps I can prevent mistakes in the future. That is why I think this is important. After listening to the words that were previously alien to the princess, Rovia paused, after which he said, This is where our lesson will end. Walking along the corridor, the blonde thought, Damn it. How can you regret someone except me? Covering his face with his hand, he asked aloud in a desperate voice. In fact, who changed you like that? Suddenly, he heard the sound of steps. Having looked closely, he noticed the scum, after which he said, You! What are you doing here? How dare you come to her without an invitation? The guy with a guilty gaze lowered his head and tried to go around the man, saying, I'm sorry. Rovia held out his hand, stopping him and speaking. You, puppet equals slave for betting, and must do only what they say. Rush along a click of fingers, and not to show the nose, if not called. Do you allow yourself so brazenly imposing on her highness? The scum shouted. I'm no longer a slave, Rovia asked. And what? It cancels your low origin? I decided that since she did not let you out of bed for several days, then you are indispensable? Remember your place and behave appropriately. Do not flatter yourself. And he remembered the words of the maids. Rumor has it that Her Highness has been holding only that person next to her for several days, and he does not seem to notice other men. The other asked, Is it true? Rovia thought, You behave as if you mean something for her. It's like you don't know that she cannot sincerely love someone. Suddenly, the scum was menacingly declared. And who are you yourself to talk to me like that? You changed Her Highness and did not even try to pray for forgiveness. And after that, you think that you can teach someone? Yes, I'm arrogant. But I am at least not like you, a wild beast that does not know devotion and compassion. Rovia, in shock, listened to the concubine's speech. After Chego said, "What is the point of beating forgiveness if you know that you will not get it?" Nadika answered, "It always makes sense, even if you probably know that you will not be forgiven." When the night came, the blonde sat next to the sleeping girl and turned to her. "Your Highness." Not hearing her answer, he remembered the words of Rovia. "Remember your place and behave appropriately." Then he winged the princess and touched her forehead, saying, "Let you certainly have good dreams." On the day, the man said in his uniform. "Glad to meet. Allow me to introduce myself. Captain of the Knights of the Imperial Palace, Leo Defet." With an indifferent look, the blonde answered, "My name is Rovia Zuran." Eldria stood next to them. 20 minutes ago," Rovia said. "I will recommend you a manual that from this moment should become your table book. Today, we found out at what level your knowledge is. For a more in-depth study of the past, you must read it."